Welcome back to Couch Talk, everybody. I'm Joe, and I just got out of seeing Gavin O'Connor's new movie, The Way Back. Gavin O'Connor is known for directing pretty feel-good movies. One of my favorite ones that he's ever done is Warrior with Tom Hardy and Joel Edgerton, where they play two brothers that have to fight each other in the final rounds of a big UFC tournament where they would win $10 million to go for each of their causes, and it's very moving. He's also done Pride and Glory with Colin Farrell and Edward Norton. That was very good. He's also done The Accountant with also Ben Affleck, which is also starring in this movie that I just seen. Honestly, he's never really made a movie that let me down. He did do this movie called Jane Got a Gun. That wasn't that great, but he was kind of shoehorned into doing it last second after the last director dropped out, so I don't really blame him for that one. In terms of performances out of his actors, this is his best work yet. This is Ben Affleck's best performance. And I loved him in Argo. I loved him in The Town. I loved his portrayal as Batman. I loved him in Live by Night. I loved him in Good Will Hunting. He's a great actor, and the fact that he took on this role is kind of perplexing, but also really cathartic in the same front. So loosely, this movie is about a man who loses someone very close to him. I won't go into spoilers, and he never fully recovers from it. He never really moves on. He tends to lean into alcohol to help numb his pain, essentially, and in doing that, he kind of ruins everything else he has going for him in his life. He winds up destroying his marriage, and he just drinks himself stupid every night and, winds up at the bar after a basic construction job and isn't really going anywhere in life, has nothing going for him, and he winds up getting hired to coach his old high school's Catholic basketball team, which he used to play for, and he was actually one of the best players, but turned down a scholarship for the sake of having a family. Now, I'm not going to go into any more spoilers, but a lot of people watching the trailer for this think it's going to be like another just feel-good sports movie, and yes, there is a lot of basketball in it. You do have those great montages of him training these kids that aren't very good to becoming one of the best. You do have those epic, slow motion, the final throw of the game. It's going to either, make it or break it type shots. You get that. So if you're going into this movie looking for, a good feel-good basketball sports movie, you're going to get it. But that's not what this movie's about. This movie is really about how Ben Affleck's character handles the pain that he's going through and how he tries to overcome his addiction to alcohol. And it focuses a lot more on that than it does on the basketball element. The basketball element is really there as a means for him to grip onto something, to fight for something for the first time since he, lost this person that he cared so dearly about. And he kind of uses this as a crutch to try and get back to reality and get himself back in a position where he can finally move on, thus the name of the title, The Way Back. This movie is very cathartic for Ben Affleck. I watched a couple interviews of him saying he really wanted to do this role, mainly because he has also struggled with addiction with alcohol in his real life. It's all over the press. It's always in the news. After all the drama on the set of Justice League, he kind of relapsed and fell into a huge binge, which ultimately wound up kind of putting the nail in the coffin on his marriage. And unfortunately, they got a divorce. He was married to Jennifer Garner, and they have a kid together. And, these are all things that he went through in his actual life that he kind of wanted to do this because he knew he could do it justice. And I actually read a thing where he almost got fired because he actually wound up going on a binge during the production of this movie. And he checked himself into rehab, and when Gavin O'Connor was considering firing him, which is weird because Gavin O'Connor loves him, especially after doing The Accountant. I found that a little weird that he didn't really kind of understand, but Jennifer Garner apparently went down to Gavin O'Connor and begged him to keep Ben Affleck on, and even told him that while Ben Affleck checked himself into rehab, he brought a basketball with him to practice because he so desperately wanted to be in this movie, and he desperately wanted to get himself back on the right track so he could be in this movie, and they wound up keeping him on. And I think that was the best decision that Gavin O'Connor ever made because the performance that Ben Affleck gives in this movie is phenomenal. There are so many heartbreaking scenes in this movie. You could tell that when Ben Affleck is filming some of these scenes that he's really tapping into, the pain he went through when he lost his wife and everything like that. And you could see that it's almost like he's not really acting. It's like he's actually portraying his true feelings. And I've never seen a performance like this before. And I so desperately want everyone to go out and see this movie because, look, this movie isn't your typical, it's going to end with the team winning and him, fully becoming sober. It doesn't have a typical Hollywood ending. It has a very real, a very raw ending, and it definitely shines a light on how someone in this situation would probably handle what they're going through. It's not a typical happy ending. I do think that the ending does have levity to it. It does put a little bit of a smile on your face. It does give you hope, but like I said, it's not what you expect. And I appreciate that they took that risk and that they didn't give it this, like Disney Hollywood ending where everything works out in the end, because it does not. The music in this movie is great. The performances are great. It's not too long. It doesn't overstay its welcome. The chemistry that Ben Affleck has with these kids on the basketball team is great. All the supporting actors, all the kids, they all bring their A game. And I really recommend this movie. I give this movie a 10 out of 10. It's perfect. There wasn't a single thing I had wrong with this movie. I left the theater with mixed emotions because I was very moved by Ben Affleck's performance. And like I said, it isn't a traditional happy ending, but at the same time, it's kind of like a metaphor for things could always get better. Just don't lose hope. Again, I'm getting choked up just thinking about it. It was a very sad movie, but in all the right ways possible. I hope everyone goes out to see this movie. Anyone that's gone through a hard time and latches onto something like a crutch to get over it, whether it be drinking, whether it be chain smoking cigarettes or going out and partying or playing video games or just binge watching Netflix or whatever it is you do. And everyone has gone through a hardship where they latched onto something to try and recover from. And I think everyone can relate, even though everyone's not an alcoholic, obviously. But you understand what it's like to be so pained that you feel like just living a day-to-day life isn't enough and you have to do something to help cope with it. The problem with Gavin O'Connor movies is no one ever sees them. Warrior lost money. Pain and Glory didn't make any money. Jane Got a Gun didn't make any money. The Accountant made a little bit of money, but not enough to really warrant a sequel. And yes, I know there have been talks about it happening. It made enough of a profit for them to not totally throw away the idea of a sequel, but not enough for them to just be like, yeah, make it, absolutely, rush it, because it only profited a little bit, and now I'm hearing talks that they're going to turn it into a TV show, which doesn't belong on TV. It deserves to have its own trilogy, because that movie was phenomenal as well. It looks like it's not going to make its money back as of right now, which is really sad. And I understand that it's kind of a hard movie to sell because no one wants to really go sit in a movie theater and be depressed. But I think that if you can get through that depressing concept, you'll see that there is a light at the end of the tunnel for this movie. And it definitely gives you hope in life, especially for when you're going through the hard times. Anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Have you seen this movie yet? Has this review persuade you into maybe considering checking it out? Or do you think that this is going to be another one of those movies that you wait to catch on streaming? That's usually always where Gavin O'Connor's movies wind up getting recognition. Anyway, as always, I'll catch you next time.